Welcome to another episode of the 100% podcast with me, your host, Harry Purdy. Today, I'm joined by a returning guest. He is back for his 16th, 1/6 episode. It is the main man, Mr. Robb Mcgeary, online coach, online wellness expert, nutrition expert, gym co-owner?
Co-owner, technically.
Co-owner? There you go, yeah. Welcome back, mate. It's good to chat to you again on the pod.
Good to be back. I was going to ask how many is it? 16. I didn't think it was 16. I thought it was less than that, but come
There
on.
you go, mate. I was,
Doing
I
something
was,
right.
I was thinking like we're gonna quickly swiftly move on to the 100th episode with Robb Mcgeary at one point, and I say swiftly, it'll take a little while. We've hit 16 in 2 years, so on average, that's like another 10 years before we get to the big 100
Easy.
review. Yeah.
Easy. And you should still be doing it in 10 years' time. Like you're
Well,
playing the long game, right?
I'm playing the long game, 100%, mate. I think it's really important just to make a little note of the date it is today. I'm a massive. I love learning about World War Two. My dad's dad was on a minesweeper at the end of the war, clearing up the Atlantic Ocean and all those kind of things. My other granddad took into national service, which obviously came into foray after the end of the war into the RAF. So big family links, but it is D-Day. It's the 80th anniversary of D-Day today. I think a nice touch. I mean, we're not here to talk about historical history. The podcast isn't around history, and it's not really around these kind of conversations. But the idea of this podcast is to speak to people who give 100%, have given 100% in their lives, and all those kind of things. Every single person, like no matter what side of the fighting you were on, whether you were in the Allies, whether you were German, whether you were in the Russian army as well, gave 100% for their countries at the time. And I think the form of bravery that they undertook during those periods, that 6 years between 1939 and 1945, is unbelievable. But today marks the biggest turning point, the toughest battles that ever kind of took place in World War Two. Do you think there's do you think it's missed sometimes, the generation gap between now and then, or do you think it's well covered enough?
Well, yeah. If you think the generation that was in World War Two, some of those guys would have fought in World War One. Some people would have lived through World War One, so they've had a
Both,
massive
yeah.
experience of two world wars, life changing, like era changing. People nowadays, especially in the West, we're not really living through that unless you've signed up for the military and you've gone to Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever the hell else, in the last 10 to 20 years. We haven't really got that. Everything now is overseas. We're not really involved. Like, realistically, how much does Russia, Ukraine involve you? Does Israel, Palestine involve you? It's not. We look at this tiny little screen and that's it. There's no national service for us to be called up for yet. There's no immediate major threat coming this direction as far as it currently stands, touch wood. So in terms of that hardship and that need to fight for something bigger than yourself. Now, granted, yes, of course, like you couldn't really say no to it. You would have been shot or ridiculed or whatever. You have to, because you had to, right? Which does make me wonder. I think that what's also missing is, if that were to happen now, what would guys be like?
Didn't somebody on the news the other day say he was basically challenged? He was like, what would happen if somebody said no to national service? Would they go to prison? And he was like, don't be silly. We can't send people to prison for not doing national service. And you're like, well, obviously, in some respects, it's a good thing. But then you're like, well, what's the point of him even raising this thing? I mean, look, we know what's coming up around the corner. We don't want to make this a political discussion on today's show neither. But you know what's around the corner. They're trying to get votes. And maybe that headline is something that people will go, oh yeah, like I completely agree with that. I'm going to vote for said party. So yeah, it's really interesting. But I think it's when you think about the ages of these fellas that literally would be on a ship being told that they're going to go and raid one of those five beaches, invade one of those five beaches. They're waiting for the go order, sat in that tiny little land. Well, some of them were massive, but the landing craft with nothing above your head to protect you from whatever was being fired at you. And
Mm.
I mean, you can't even comprehend what they went through. But I think it was important. I think it is important to take time today to just say like thank you, really, to those people that lost their lives. And I think there's only
Mm.
40 surviving veterans now, which just shows how
Really.
far in the past it is. Yeah,
I
mate.
mean, Italy, you think like World War One, we've got no one with no
I don't know.
survivors now. Like Earth has been for some time. So now we're reaching that new era of, well, now it's just going to go into the history books, which does that mean we put less relevance on it? I don't know. I hope not. Hopefully everything continues. And there's no threat that it wouldn't. Hopefully all the remembrance stuff still continues and we still appreciate it. And because a huge debt must be flipping paid. And I think it's always got to be paid to military anyway, regardless of whether it was World War II or whether they are over in an overseas country that technically we shouldn't really be in. It's still the same thing. They're doing things that most of us would not do.
Yeah.
And when like failure is not an option. And when the guy in front of you gets shot and killed, failure is still not an option. Retreat is still not an option. Most of us don't have that mindset. How many of us give up on basic daily tasks because we're tired? Like that's kind of a giant red flag of how you might act in that sort of situation, you know?
Yeah, I was listening to there was a show on this morning. I had it on in the background. I'm not normally one to watch the mainstream TV as we've spoken about before, but again, something that really interests me, something that I would like willingly pay my respects towards and stuff. And this old, I think he was 99. He's 100 in July, and he was
Amazing.
telling a story about how he was on like the bombardment. He was doing the bombarding of the beaches, and he said he was 50 feet from the shore. That's how close some of the smaller vessels got to the shore, and he was obviously pinging the German defenses and stuff. And he said it wasn't obviously he didn't raid the beaches, but he was still a massive part of the invasion. And he said it wasn't until like an hour or two into the start of D-Day that he realized what a huge sacrifice people were making, because the tide would start to come in and it was bringing the bodies and stuff of like troops that obviously tried to raid the beaches. And he said as well that I can't remember, like the bridge hand or whatever it was called, like the leader of his boats and all of the other boats were told until the invasion was done they couldn't even fish these guys out of the water. And I think those are the kind of things that when it, like the question is, what do you think? Like I've been asked it before. How do you think you'd cope in the middle of like warfare and stuff? And you're like, you just don't know, do you? Until you're there. And again, everybody listening to this hopes for sure that they don't ever have to get involved in something like that. I would think, but
Yeah.
it's happened. But yeah, I think that's the tribute I wanted to make today on 80 years from the day of D-Day, and I don't think anyone can be any more grateful. People should be insanely grateful for what happened.
Should be, without a doubt.
We spoke about it there, mate, and then you put it into perspective, right? Because I said to you before the podcast started, I was like, last couple of weeks, man, like I think what's important as well is I do still maintain quite a high energy. I've been still keeping up relative consistency with posting, and like, I've not stopped doing the things that are easy for me to do, like record podcast episodes, get into the gym and stuff. But around all of the other side of running a business, trying to grow a business, trying to grow the podcast, and all of that minute detail, I've just felt a real low about the last couple of weeks. And it fits into what you said as well. Again, as you started the podcast, you've had loads of new leads with the gym, and they're all coming through. And I don't know if you saw the other day, but I put a testimonial out from one of my clients, and it like banged. It was the best like aesthetic testimonial that's I've ever had really go through my client basis. And from that, new leads, and you're like, yes, like it's finally changed. But it doesn't quite mean that, does it? Just a few messages and stuff in the DMs. So when you're feeling the lows and the lows of not, I wouldn't even say I felt low, I've just felt energyless. Like I've got just about enough energy to keep doing the basic stuff. What do you tend to do to keep ticking over?
Well, it comes down to purpose. Where's your focus towards that purpose, right? So where energy is going to crash at some point, no one can remain high energy all the time. No one can, regardless of how some people may put that energy out there or that image out there on social media, for example. Like even Goggins is going to be tired at some point.
Even though
But
he'd
again,
say he
that's a
wouldn't
different.
be, yeah.
Even though he'd say he wouldn't. Jocko Willink, that geezer drinks an insane amount of caffeine. You know, it's everyone's. It's natural. Your body goes through and your brain goes through these natural energy cycles of high focus, high motivation, things like that. And I think it's easy to get motivated when things are exciting. But because life is life, things are not always going to constantly be on an upwards trajectory. There's going to be crashes. We've had leads come in. It's fantastic. Got some new clients out of it. There's leads that have not turned into anything. And we're kind of left going, well, we need more leads and need more people coming in. So that's a negative state. Now we're not going from a place of continuing the wins and working with clients getting results. It's now, shit, we need more people coming in. We've got to create something. And that takes energy, that takes time. And you don't necessarily know if it's the right thing, if it's going to attract the right people, because it's all a test, right? But outside of that, if we're sleeping, if we're eating right, if we're taking care of ourselves and being active, we should have the energy, the physical energy, to take on any mental task. Anyone with, and we've spoke about testosterone a lot, anyone with diagnosed low testosterone is going to have a much harder time doing things related to their business, things related to their health, things related to their relationship, a long list of stuff that would be made easier if they had high testosterone levels, because the production of energy, the production of other hormones later down the line that can make you more productive, they can make you more energetic, make you more focused, make you feel more alive to pursue those goals. Remember, testosterone is a reward hormone that you get more of from doing the thing. Like, without that purpose, without that thing to aim for, how can you ever expect to feel good and want to do more of that? So as long as we keep that forward focus, and this is why we journal, this is why we set goals, this is why we set quarterly goals, and we're coming to that weird time of the year where the second quarter is nearly over.
Crazy, man.
Some goals crazy we would have hit, in which case the motivation, excitement, and them has gone. That's in the past. Some we haven't hit that might seem a bit overwhelming to get in the space of a month. So we're likely to put those on the back seat. And then it's a case of, well, what are we aiming for? Are we just kind of now ticking off the easy goals that are easy to hit, that aren't particularly motivated, and we don't really get the dopamine, testosterone rewards from? Or do we need to set a different goal entirely? Whilst also, and this when Paul pointed this bit out, it did blow my mind. There we are, breaking the year down into 4 quarters, 12 weeks at a time, setting those quarterly goals, and then we almost treat the quarter like a reset. And sometimes if we've hit the goal, fantastic. If we haven't hit it, we put it to the end of the next quarter, or we abandon it altogether. Whereas if we just moved that deadline back 2-3 more weeks, or maybe just a month in total, rather than resetting every single quarter, okay, so life's got in the way, whatever else has happened, we're not going to hit that particular goal. We just move it back a little bit further. The excitement should still be there. And we should use those quarterly reviews to actually review, do we even want that thing anymore? Was it just something we set when we were excited? There's goals I've set for this year that I've already bailed on because I know it's actually not for me anymore, or it's not right for me now. So why waste my energy and time getting annoyed that I'm not going to hit that goal? I can just push that away for another time. But it all comes down to taking care of yourself. Because if you're not taking care of yourself and you're in a state of high stress, cortisol is going to dictate how you feel. Adrenaline crashes are going to dictate how you feel. And if that cycle is off balance, you're not going to have any energy, you're not going to have any motivation, you're not going to be hitting any goals anyway. You're just going to feel complete overwhelm. Things aren't going to get done because you're tired. And that's just going to be more things piling on top of each other. So the first rule, if you're feeling that slump, is to either reevaluate what you're chasing or take more care of yourself, really.
Yeah, I think like reflecting on where I've been over the last 3 months, let's just say, which actually splits between the first quarter and now, is that I was obviously chasing down that London Marathon, right? So that was my full-on #1 priority, training 3 times a week out on the road, plus ticking over with the hybrid powerlifting element. So that's not in my head anymore. So there's no like real like I'm going to use the
Yeah.
no real medal to chase down, no real trophy to chase down at the end of this quarter, which probably having an impact. But also as well, and this is no excuses, I'm genuinely trying insanely hard to grow both sides of what my business is now. So the one-to-one online coaching, and now as most people are aware now, I'm doing really a limited amount of one-to-one coaching
Mm.
spacing at a new facility that I've got myself in South Peverton. And that leads to extra hours that I wouldn't be working and being physical that I have before.
Mm.
So then I guess that's extra energy that I'm using, which therefore means that I probably should be looking after myself a little bit better than what I have done previously. Otherwise, you go back to that old adage, the old like my I always revert back to this. I used to get really pissed off if I was upset or low or not in a good mood. My mum would say, "Oh, you're burning the candle at both ends. You're just tired." And I'd go, "It's not. I'm not fucking tired." Blah blah blah. But actually, when you break it down, like in a real basic format, if you burn the candle at both
Mm.
ends and you're tired, you are going to be low of motivation, you
Yeah.
are going to be low of energy, and you are going to feel well tired.
Mm.
Simple as that. And
Yeah.
it's just going to be a resounding cycle. So I've got on top of that, and the way that, as you said, the way that you handle that is by looking after yourself. And the things that you can do when you are feeling those elements of low energy is okay, I'm not going to do the X, Y, and Z big goals today. I'm not going to create a brand new fucking training on this, that, and the other today. But what I am going to do is make sure I eat well, make sure I get to bed at a good time, and make sure I do some form of training. And on Tuesday, I turned up to football training, right? Yesterday, it was I did an absolute banger of a gym session. And then, like, slowly, you can just start feeling the momentum coming back into your actions.
Mm.
And I think I genuinely, I always revert. I think it's definitely a chicken or the egg kind of question. Which of the supplements of health is the one that's the most important, right? And I don't mean supplements on the case of
Mm.
vitamin D or zinc or omega-3.
Mm.
I mean of our habits. Is it
Mm.
journaling? Sometimes, yeah, it is journaling that is the one that keeps us ticking over. Is it getting to bed at a good time? Yeah, sometimes that's the one that's actually going to give us a bit of revitalization and get us waking up in the morning
Mm.
feeling rejuvenated, happier, more energized. Is it that you've had a shit diet at the weekend and you've like let your energy fall on that front? Could well be. All of the amount of shit that's in like a Domino's or a Chinese could well have an impact on how you're feeling on a Monday morning. And we won't go into booze again, but
Mm.
again, all of those other things that can be
Mm.
influenced by the amount that you drink or the other supplements that you might be taking that aren't of the legal kind at the weekend as well can all have a thing. But it is really important as an individual, if you want to get the best out of life, for you to identify which of those ones are the ones that are supporting you the most.
Mm. What's zapping your energy? What's making life harder for you than it needs to be? It's not always a simple case of just cut it out of your life, because that could be something massive like alcohol, could be a relationship, could be the job that you kind of tied into and you don't necessarily know what you would do next if you did quit it. But if you'll know there's something, one, you're not happy with, and two, that is destroying your energy. And you always have a choice and the ability to fix it. Doesn't mean it's going to be an easy fix. And it's probably going to take more energy to fix it, in which case, out of everything, get some fucking sleep. Get into bed and sleep. Like, what's the big thing people always say where, if someone's in hospital or something bad has happened, there's a life tragedy going on, why don't you go get yourself some sleep? And it's the last thing you can even think of doing at that moment in time. But 9 times out of 10, if you at least try, you're going to get some fucking sleep. Like, rather than staying up and making yourself feel worse doesn't help you help anyone else any better. Like, if anything, I'd say that's the big needle mover people need to focus on a lot more. And it doesn't mean you have to go for optimal blue light blockers, the measuring the right fucking temperature, weird pads and shit like that. Just fucking get in bed, right? Let's keep it simple.
And no, notoriously, I'm sure you don't mind me saying, I know that you have had your struggles with sleep and stuff in the past. What are the things that you fall back to if you're not going to guarantee that you're going to get 8 hours sleep? Let's just say you kind of get that feeling. I still get it every now and again. And sometimes there's no real reason for it, but I've learned to just accept. The more that you fight the fact that you're not going to sleep and you get annoyed about it, the less likely you are to get to sleep. So that'll be
Yeah.
the one thing, the number one thing that I've thought about. And that sounds way easier, by the way, than what it is. And that took practice with meditation and being more present with how I'm feeling,
Mm,
how I'm thinking for me to learn how to do that. But something everybody can go to is the Headspace sleep meditations, or there's the
mm,
other app, isn't there, called Calm? I think that's
mm.
quite good as
Yeah, yeah.
well. But what are the other habits and fallbacks that you fall on to make sure that you get a good night's sleep, Rob?
Well, it's routine. Like, for example, I'm going to a gig tonight. I'm going to be back late. I'm going to be back after midnight, and I've got to get up early to come here the next day. So I know that the length of sleep is going to be small. The quality of sleep is going to suffer. It just is what it is, right? But what can I do? I can make sure that stuff is prepared for the next day, so that's not a worry. So I haven't got to get back late and then do things that are actually going to lead to even less sleep. I can stay off my phone. I can make sure that when I get in my bedroom, it's bed. It's not sit on the phone for 20, 30 minutes. It could easily turn into an hour. It's not mucking around with stupid shit. It's lights out. Let's tell the brain this is, or the body, or whichever way around, this is sleep time. Let's sleep. We've had our fun. We've got a big old day tomorrow. Stuff's ready. I haven't got to worry about that. There's nothing that should keep me awake going, oh, I didn't do this. I've got to prep food. I've got to get these ready. If that's already done, then I've just made life a little bit easier for myself. If I can't sleep, if I just can't do it, and there's still nights where I wake up in the middle of the night, 2 a.m, whatever, and just can't shut the brain off. What I can guarantee is going to stop me getting back to sleep is getting on my phone. And yeah, 8 times out of 10, that's what I do. Get on my phone, scroll through some stuff because, UK shut down, but America's just waking up. So I can see some funny stuff there on Twitter. Or I can read that article that I've been putting off that I haven't read on the flipping trains. I've been too busy doom scrolling or whatever. Or I can listen to something, but it's never going to help. As soon as that blue light is on you, as soon as your focus is on the rest of the fucking world, not on getting to sleep. Whereas the biggest pattern break anyone could do is if you're not sleeping, get up, get out of that bed and go grab a drink, go to the toilet, just break that pattern, focus on something that, again, is not the rest of the world through your phone. Maybe that is reading a couple of pages of a book. Maybe that is just going, grabbing a drink and then getting back in bed. Breaking that pattern of lying there going, I'm not sleeping, just continues that cycle of I'm lying here and I'm not sleeping.
You are the
simple pattern break.
You are the main man for. I love talking to you about supplements. I always get real good value out of talking about supplements. If there was a supplement for improving the quality of your sleep and increasing the likelihood that is legal in this country. So I know in America, I found this out the other day, like 90% of the popular, maybe not, I don't know, a lot of Americans and a lot of Canadians do take melatonin before,
melatonin, yeah,
which is prescribed over here, right? But you can't get that just over the counter. Whereas in America, I'm pretty sure you can just buy it like in gummy format, and it aids sleep. But that must be on quite a grand scale. It must be a good measurement, what would be a good measurement of melatonin for you to actually be knocked out by it. But over here, it's not right. Is that you can't get it? Is that right?
You could still get it. You're not going to get it over the counter. You're not going to get it in Boots. You can get it on prescription. But go on the internet, you get everything on the internet, and it's not even like a dark, dodgy fucking website. Some custom places will let it through. Others won't. But obviously, bigger now in Canada and America, it's melatonin with CBD that's psychoactive. It's got the THC in it as well. There's a lot of that going on, and obviously we can't do that here just yet, but I think that's about to change.
In terms of, just to add a question onto that then, so like if that was available, the melatonin and the THC, would that improve the quality of your sleep? Because my fear with all of those kind of influences on the body, let's just say outside influences on the body, there's proof with like omega-3, vitamin D, magnesium, that can have a real positive impact on the productivity of yourself, the productivity of your body, gut health, brain function, etc. Melatonin, THC, are we looking at a positive impact on you, or is that something that's just having an impact on you going to sleep?
Well, again, the issue I have with melatonin, I don't do well on melatonin. I'm drowsy as hell the next day. A lot of previous clients have said the same thing. I don't really recommend melatonin to anyone. Partly because it forces sleep. It doesn't naturally send you into the sleep cycle like magnesium and other calming effects supplements and routines can do. Melatonin can kind of push you into it, which again can, not, that can throw your natural circadian rhythms out of kilter, and your 90-minute sleep cycles can be completely off, which is why you'll feel drowsy the next day. THC, obviously a different kettle of fish. Everyone reacts differently to psychoactive drugs. Some people, it's perfect to get some relaxed, dosage dependent. Last time I took weed gummies, which was actually this year, to facilitate sleep, it was only 25 milligrams in a gummy. I should have, because it's been so long since I've done anything like that, taken half a gummy, half an hour before bed. I didn't. I took the whole one 2 hours before bed. Did I get to sleep? Did I? Fuck. Too busy staring at the ceiling, making shapes out of cobwebs in my head and having a conversation with my pillow about life. It's like, it's again, it's not the cure. Yes, as a teenager, you may have smoked loads of weed and felt drowsy by the end of it and then dozed off. Again, it wasn't quality sleep, was it? It's a psychoactive substance. It's not a sleep supplement. All the things that calm your nervous system without, what's the word I'm looking for? Or without firing up other areas of your brain are the things that can do that. Magnesium, absolutely perfect. There's dozens of others. There's things we've never spoken about before in here as well. But as soon as you go to that enforced or risky psychoactive side of stuff, it's not there for optimal sleep. It's really, really not. So
that was
once
my
those supplements
that was my fear. Yeah, no, just that was my fear with that. It almost seems like when you're having to get shortcuts for the way you're feeling or the way that or falling asleep, for example, or shortcuts on building muscle and all of those kind of things, there's always a knock-on effect. And that would be for me, that would be my number one fear is, I might get, touch wood, I don't struggle to go to sleep very often. And if I do, I have my own kind of routine in place to get it back going again. But that would be my biggest fear is that you start incorporating those kind of habits in your life, and then sooner you know it, you're relying on that always. And then that becomes a bit of a thing for me that, maybe not too positive.
Without getting too blue, how many guys out there that will never admit to it, but will definitely be triggered by this, that they won't sleep unless they've had a wank?
Yeah, right.
That's part of their nighttime routine, right? And it's not a sleep thing, right? Okay, you might be knackered afterwards, there's a refractory period, but you've made that part of your habit to sleep. Of course you can sleep without doing that. Of course you can. This ridiculous notion that you might think that's the only thing you need to do to get into sleep. It's all these excitatory things with crashes afterwards that don't lead to optimal sleep. What leads to better sleep is, yes, getting into bed at a decent time, making sure you're not sitting on your phone 10 minutes before you try to sleep, limiting the amount of caffeine earlier in the day, trying to get up at a similar time every single day. Like all the teeny tiny, this is related to another thing, but it's something that Stan Efferding and Jordan Shallow and other people have said. It's like you're stepping over dollars to pick up nickels or something like that, along those lines. Like there's all those teeny tiny little things that are actually going to help you, that are much, much easier to implement, that are way more effective, way powerful, but you're looking for that big thing. The melatonin, that's going to get me sleep. The THC, that's a cool thing to try. That's going to help me get sleep as well. And the risk to reward ratio is way off.
Crazy.
Smaller, more consistent things. Same with any pursuit is what's gonna get you there. What's going to help your financial situation? Stop spending money on stupid shit. Start looking at your money. Start budgeting correctly. Like, you're not going to win the lottery, so putting all your hopes on £2 a week to win the lottery and not actually looking at your financial situation, it's not going to fix your financial situation. It's the exact same thing with sleep and overall energy created by that sleep as well.
The other one I would add to that, just from my benefit, is I know that my greatest night's sleep are always stimulated or from the knock-on effect of training. Well,
Yeah.
If I've had a good training session, if I've sweated, if I've worked my muscles, and
Hell
or
yeah.
I'm not gonna take the shine away from the cardio element. I'll tell you what, in fact, if I've done a long run, I know for a fucking sure that I'm gonna get to sleep insanely
Yeah.
well the night after. And that is
Yeah.
a really underrated, again, mini supplement, natural supplement that you can use to aid your sleep and the power and
Yeah.
effect of your sleep as well, because your body will want to recover more if
Mm.
you've worked it than if you have had a sedentary day. You've spent a day in the office, you struggle with sleep anyway, you get home, you think, oh, I can't be fucked to go and do X, Y, and Z. And then the next minute, you know, you're led there thinking, why can't I go to sleep? Well, you've got energy to
Exactly.
burn.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how you force yourself into sleep. Do 11 one-to-one PT sessions in a day. Don't do that because your standard of service slips by the eighth. But do a ton of one-to-one PT sessions and all your admin in between and your own workout and maybe a commute as well. You're not going to care about Netflix anymore. You're not going to care about your phone. You're not even going to get out of those sessions going, I need to check up on what happened on Instagram and Twitter and all these things. You're just going to be, I need to get to bed. And my God, yeah, you're going to goddamn sleep. Of course you are. Yeah,
100%,
exhaust
man.
yourself. It's like we
Yeah.
don't do enough of that either. We don't exhaust ourselves either.
We've touched on a little bit of this, or a few of the one of the newer elements of, let's go with, trends and fitness things to help, or in wellness terminology, and that was the sleep supplement that's becoming really popular in America now. But in terms of keeping up to date with all of the changes, I'm using the little inverted commas action there as well within the industry, and all of the fake news, the false stories that we've already spoken about with regards to certain podcasts and stuff, with the adverts that are promoting X, Y, and Z supplements as well. Like, you've seen the whole Andrew Huberman, like, jaw biting thing that's going to improve the muscular structure inside your jaw. Electrolytes and hydration seems to have an as just bounced recently. The amount of new hydration electrolyte supplements that are on the market. Mushrooms, microdosing mushrooms is a new one as well that every big podcaster seems to be talking about, and nobody really knows too much about. And then, of course, the eating 100 eggs a day or whatever the fucking hell is the latest trend. How does somebody who's not fully clued up and has just come into the industry to try and find somebody to help them gonna get through all of the shit to find out what's beneficial and what's not?
By doing. That's
Yeah.
literally. I'm not a fan of the fitness industry pushing themselves as this path to get to your goal without making any mistakes. You have to
Love
make
it.
mistakes.
Yeah, I love
I
that.
let my clients make mistakes. It's an essential, integral part of the process because that's how you learn. You don't learn just by following blindly what someone else is saying. You learn by making mistakes, and
That'd
we can
be
help you.
that'd be like a dictatorship, right? Rather than a
Yeah,
coaching
exactly.
program. Yeah.
And that is a large part of the industry, unfortunately. That is. So we allow our clients to make mistakes. We help steer them when things go wrong and see the bigger picture and keep working towards whatever they're working towards. We don't chastise them or punish them like some dickheads will do. We help them. That's why our industry exists. We're there to help. Sadly, we're not the fix for all the problems out there. And this is the problem with trying to keep on top of all these different things, all these different areas. Some of them are actually nothing to do with us. They're beyond our remit. Yeah. So if someone's being diagnosed insomnia, that's not our job to fix. We can learn some cool stuff. We can help. We can advise, but that's not our fucking job. Same with what I don't like, why this industry is going too deep into the mindset and emotionals. And hey, PT's talking about, here's how you overcome your fucking trauma. Bruv, you're a PT. You're not qualified in this. You may have experience with it, but it doesn't mean that you can now fix it for someone else. Okay, I hate to say it. Obviously, qualification is important. Experience is important. But that's not our job to fix. So we can only help with certain things. It's great learning about the things Huberman's putting out there. It's great learning about like different nutrition and supplements and therapy, cold therapy, and there's a million different things out there. But it's making things more complicated for the average person, and our job is to help the average person.
Oh man,
like the PT qualification doesn't mean you can work with elite athletes. It doesn't mean I could not help you get better at your marathon. I couldn't. I'm not a running coach, but I can help you get fucking strong. I can help you get lean. I can help you establish healthy habits that may lead to you running a faster marathon time. But in terms of the actual running side of it, I can't do fuck all. I know PTs less qualified than me that are putting that message out there that they can help someone do that. It's ridiculous. So we need to tone it down a little bit in our industry, without a doubt. If a general member of the general population is looking to drop a bit of weight, get healthier, establish some healthy habits, the simplest things are the ones that always work. And there's nothing new. There is nothing that is going to come out in the next 10 years that hasn't come out in the last 50 years that is going to change the game in terms of how you do something, with the exception of Ozempic and those sort of things. That's the only thing that's changed, and you shouldn't be rushing to take that unless you are morbidly obese and diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. There's no point in fucking taking that, okay? Again, risk-reward ratio, way off.
on
So
that,
let's leave them. Go on.
Sorry, mate. Yeah, I did. On that subject of Ozempic, then again, similar to my previous comment, is there has to be some kind of negative connotation or side effect to taking this drug.
If you think it indiscriminately helps you to lose weight, and a percentage of that will be muscle mass and potentially weakening of tendons and ligaments, it's the same as an extremely aggressive deficit. Extremely aggressive deficit, more so than what most people would do or need to do. Think of how aggressive a stage competing bodybuilder is going to need to go to get thick skin lean, how dehydrated they'll need to be to look the best they can for their sport on stage, whilst they're also potentially feeling pretty goddamn rough whilst they're up there, right? Like that's the next level that most of the general population won't go to, and most PTs haven't been to. The next thing above that is then enforced pharmaceutical fat loss. Anyone who's ever taken some of these, I don't even know what you call them as a general thing, but something like clenbuterol, which can lead to extra fat loss because you've just raised your metabolic rate through moving more, through your anxiety being through the roof,
For
through
horses,
fidgeting for horses and shit like that, and asthma medicine, things like that. Anyone who's taken that, you don't feel particularly good on it because you've just pushed it to the next level that is beyond what you would consider naturally possible. So again, as soon as we're getting into those areas, now that doesn't mean that focusing on your sleep and cold plunge therapy and anything else Andrew Huberman is anywhere near that sort of level. It's not. It's all things that most people could realistically do in their life. But again, you've got to think of time, you've got to think of finances, you've got to think of what's optimal isn't always sustainable. It might help you for a short period of time, but then if you run out of the budget to keep doing that thing, then it's no longer relevant to you. If you run out of the time to keep doing that thing, if your life situation or your goals change, simple is, it's the boring thing, but simple is best. Eating the right food, calorie deficit, sleep, stress management, activity, training with weights. Those things are going to have way more powerful impact on your life than blue light blockers or a certain supplement or diving in a fucking ice bath every morning or jumping in the sea, whatever the hell, nasal breathing, fucking mouth strip, fucking vibrating dildo, whatever the fuck, right? And I'm like, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter. It's all within this, like, if you think of a pyramid, the base at the bottom is what you need. All the stuff you need to do is in that basic bottom bit. And everything else is still potentially relevant to try. But the higher you get up and the smaller those things are, that's the area where all this extra stuff is. It may help with an extra 1 to 10%, but why would you want 1 to 10% if you're not getting the 80% correct to begin with?
Yeah.
And yeah. Bit of a rant, that one, fucking hell.
Do you know what? I think it's really valuable as well because, again, it's like you say, you're stepping over the dollars to pick up a nickel, or in our money, stepping over the pounds to pick up
or
a
whatever
penny.
way around it is. Yeah. Mm,
Which is a really valuable way of looking at it, I think, because there's so many shiny brand new objects that are
mm,
being dived into, and then when you look at our clients, ourselves, even for me at one
mm,
point in my journey, it was about trying these shiny new objects, but actually what has lasted the course of time of my journey, movement, sleep,
mm.
the basic supplements that I do, protein, ensuring that I'm moving,
Yeah,
ensuring
man.
I'm getting in that sunlight, ensuring that I'm doing the journaling and all of those kind of things that stop me getting that extra
Mm,
stress, which will then have a knock-on effect of me doing those basic things at the bottom. It
yeah.
hasn't been making sure that I've taken a electrolyte tablet in the morning. It hasn't been jumping in a cold shower for those times that I've tried to include that in my routine. It hasn't been like any other number of things that I've tried to include in my routine. The things that have stuck: training with resistance, getting my cardio in every week, making sure I've got a high protein diet, making sure that I'm
Mm,
not eating shit and drinking shit, and those are the things that have enabled me to make those progressions that I have with
mm,
my physical health. All the way back, when you go all the way back to 2015, I can confidently say that I've learnt something new and been able to sustain the gains that I've made in whatever format it be: strength, fitness, weight loss, mental health as well,
mm, mm,
for now 9 years running. And that, I think that's pretty cool. But none of that has been done by, yeah, of course, there's been some therapy. Yeah, of course, I've paid for some really good coaching from some really cool people. Yeah, I've had some fucking sick people on this podcast, including yourself, mate, that have broke things down for me to then be able to almost create my own foundation. Like you speak about that pyramid that I've gone, well, what's Harry Purdy's pyramid? I need this, and this at the bottom. And then if I can get this, and this, and on top of it, cool. And then the other shit, bah, don't really matter.
mm. Massively so. It is, it is funny how we are. I don't know whether it is a natural thing or whether it is just through marketing manipulation that we really want to reach for that. We've all done it, and I still do it. We want to reach for that big shiny red button that could actually fix things for us. There's potential in there, but there's never any fucking guarantee. And even like again, I say nothing's new. 15 years ago, when I was watching raw vegans on fucking YouTube talk about mushrooms and adaptogens and lion's mane and chaga, where were all these influencers then? They were nowhere to be flipping seen until there's more money to be made because it's gone into a more mainstream market and it's not just associated with the raw vegans and some crazy fucking supplements. Where the fuck were you guys then? And even before then, there's guys that have been taking. Well, what's his name? Who's on Rogan all the time? Paul Stammet. He's doing lion's mane chaga and microdosing way back in the 70s. Nothing's new. Nothing's new at all. So we don't need to wait for this new thing. If you see a new headline, yeah, it's probably bollocks, and there's probably paid advertising behind it. But it's the basics always flipping work.
The next thing I've wrote down as a topic, which all of these linked today, which is nice. The only outlandish one was D-Day at the start, but I was glad I included it in today's conversation. But there's so many kind of like knock-on illnesses and long-term sticking around illnesses now that
Mm,
may not have been so prevalent. Let's go 30, 40 years ago when the amount of processed food was in or had the availability than what it has now. And you've only got to, like, again, something I've been guilty of in the past, driving around it with my job, eating for easiness rather than nutritional impact on me. And that was earlier on I was more so worried about the calories than I was actually what I was eating, right?
mm,
You're talking of things, and don't get me wrong, like type 2 diabetes being probably the number one thing that's affecting the population in the UK and USA and on a huge rise as well. And then, of course,
mm,
the obesity knock-on effect of that. You've got things like fibromyalgia, which are coming out and being hugely
mm,
more, I hate to use the word popular, but that's kind of what it's becoming. Chronic fatigue is like a thing that's now being more accepted as an and I'm not being disrespectful. This may trigger somebody on the podcast, so trigger warning. It's now being accepted as a genuine illness and something that you can get like a disability badge for, and all of these kind of things. How important do you think, or how much of an impact do you think the quality or the lack of quality of nutrition in the general pop at the minute is having an impact on these things?
It's having a majority of it. It's low quality nutrition and overabundance of it. Right? Whatever's out there, whatever's on the shelf of the supermarkets, nothing on that, no one item on that shelf is going to kill you or cause major damage to your body. But the ease of access to increase the dosage of that, for want of a better word, poison, is unlimited. Like you can buy a fuck ton of it and eat a fuck ton of it. And if you're an emotional eater and you're super stressed,
cheaply as well.
And cheap, of course it is. Yeah, of course it's okay. It is a myth that healthy food is expensive. If you know what you're actually buying and have to budget that across the week and into the right meal prep and stuff like that, it's not expensive. Like you might look at a packet of 9 chicken breasts and go, Jesus Christ, £7.50 or £8, but that's almost a week's worth of food. You look at one McDonald's only being £3, yeah, but that's one meal. So when you flip it the other way around, yes, it's dirt cheap, this junk food, but healthy food is not necessarily more expensive. It's the ease of access to it. We've got to also remember things like type 2 diabetes is not a recent phenomenon. It has been around for centuries. Believe it or not, like how did doctors used to tell if a woman was type 2 diabetic? She started tasting sweeter down there. Like, that's fucking amazing, that is. So that's what I normally offer women is, do you want diabetes check?
Love it.
I'm not a qualified doctor, but I do have an Instagram profile pretending to be one. The more recent things, I think it's all more to do with inflammation and in autoimmunity disorders. I think that's what's really happening here. Then the inflammation is coming not just from one type of food, but from sedentary lifestyles, abundance of calories, abundance of low nutrition calories, which contain some anti-nutrients, which again, just on their own is not going to cause a problem. Lack of sleep, alcohol, hormonal imbalance. Your immune system is, well, cortisol is actually anti-inflammatory. If your cortisol cycle is working correctly, absolutely perfect. We don't want to eliminate cortisol from your life. One, you're not going to get up in the morning. It helps you deal with a lot of other stuff. But cortisol is constantly up because we're in a super stressful, highly polluted, distracted, angry at everyone else on social media, society, angry at ourselves, angry at, all sorts. It's easy to be angered in this current era. So cortisol goes up, other hormones get pushed down, immunity, your immune system doesn't work properly, it gets fatigued as well. And you're not really feeding it. You're not feeding the hormones because your overabundance of alcohol, estrogens, other pollutants through plastics and just your general society. You're now creating a very toxic environment inside of your body through the abundance and ease of access of these negative environments that you can put yourself in. So it's going to lead to immunity disorders. It's going to lead to things that are related to inflammatory conditions within your body and accelerate the rate of those things happening to you as well. And this is why we're seeing obesity rates going up. And alongside those obesity rates going up, we see heart disease stats going up. We see cancer going up. We see a whole host of other things increasing as well. Depression going up as well. It's terrifying, really, when you think about it. And it's not one thing that's creating that. It's not junk food just destroying the planet. It's not sugar just destroying humanity. It's the constant overdoing it of all these negative things that creates a self-perpetuating cycle of negativity, emotions, emotional eating. And that continues until, like we said earlier, until you break the pattern, break the chain. And there's probably going to be, in the next 10 years, maybe this is what will happen that's actually new. They'll label some other new illnesses because more people are getting it or creating it. It's kind of worrying, really, when you think about it.
It's like the bottom of the ocean, right? The deepest, darkest parts of the ocean. There's animals. There's fish, mammals down there that we've never discovered before. It's because we've not been there. The human race hasn't been in a position, hasn't been in a place where there's been so much availability of this low nutritional food that you say like quite dramatically, but the point is it is in some cases can be poison if you continually eat that stuff.
Yeah.
That is humanity at a stage now where we're at a place where we don't even know what illnesses we're going to create from. I mean, look, this I'm not being a conspiracy theorist here yet at the moment, but there is something to be said for that. Is what other things are going to be considered as the new normal if
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
continuation of the
Mm.
poor diet, the poor choices that people make. And the point I was going to make from that is, again, since like, I've changed dramatically, and people know this on in many formats. The way I look, the way I talk, the energy I have, what my weekly habits are, how much exercise I include, what I eat, like who I spend my time with, what conversations I have. There's been many things, and this isn't about me today. But what I will say through all of those habits, and obviously some of them are relevant to it, and some of them are not. But
Mm.
I get ill so rarely now, so rarely now. Like it's, and if I feel a sniffle or something, I feel the sniffle and I'm like, fuck that. And then it'll kind of disappear. And I'm not, again, that's just probably because it's hay fever or whatever. But I very rarely get ill to an extent that it'll take 2, 3 days away from my week.
Mm.
The only time I'll lose any time is if it's a physical thing. I get injured in football or something like that. But the question is, how many people do you know that are always ill that have those bad habits that we've spoken about? The poor nutritional choices, the low activity level, the sedentary lifestyle, the poor sleep, the choosing bad habits at weekends, that every 3, 4 weeks, how you doing? Oh, I've got this again. Oh, I've got a cold. Oh, my chest just hasn't quite sorted itself out. Oh, I've got a bad stomach. Oh, I feel really tired and fatigued. All of those bad habits equate to bad things. And I firmly believe that all of the good habits equate to good things. I always I've created this thing now, Rob. It's like the 520, the 5/5 of 100%. And one of them is related to, have you treated yourself like you would treat a best friend or
Mm.
family member? And I think it's so key to how you think, feel, act, how your energy is, how you
Mm.
perform in any aspect, whether that be in the bedroom to out on the football pitch. If you just start breaking it down, and like I said earlier, I've worked out what's at the bottom of my pyramid for my pyramid to be able to stand
Mm.
up. If you start working out what's at the bottom of your pyramid, if you are somebody that's constantly feeling tired, maybe you're always ill, not sleeping very well, running on low energy, you start creating your own version of that pyramid, what basic things you need to start feeling a bit better and start just doing those things,
Mm.
then your life will change. Maybe not dramatically to begin with, but it will change for the better.
Mm. Most people don't realize how bad a situation they're in now because they don't feel it, because it's not physically shown itself to be the case, even though they're storing excessive body fat or they're skinny fat with no muscle mass on their frame. They're not doing any sort of cardiovascular activity whatsoever. And just because you're okay now doesn't mean that in the next 5 to 10 to 20 years, something isn't going to materialize. A lot of these illnesses, these major illnesses, are built up over a long time. Some of those things, little symptoms are showing themselves now that won't turn into a full diagnosable disease until 10 years down the line, that you could have reverted now, but you won't because you feel okay.
Is that
And although longevity and long term is the boring thing to talk about, why wouldn't you want a higher quality of life when you're older?
yeah,
And that's dictated by what you're doing now, right?
100%. We could go on another rabbit hole here and talk about vaping on that front, because that
Fuck
I mean,
vapors.
again,
Come on, man.
I'm no
Mm.
expert, but when you say people are feeling okay now because of what they're doing,
Mm.
the knock-on effect of it potentially isn't something that's going to give you longevity.
Mm.
But anyway, I'm surmising. Rob, we've covered everything I wanted to cover today. It's been another quality, high impact, loads of value episode with you again. My question for you today, mate, is we are, as you say, really close to the end of the quarter. And normally at the end of my podcast, I ask people what the greatest bit of advice they've ever been given is, but I would have asked that to you before. I know that for sure. My question for you to end the podcast today is, what is the biggest takeaway of 2024 you've had so far?
Shit. That's a great fucking question. I wish I had my journal here because I'm sure I've got the insight written down
Yeah.
in actual sentence format that I could put into words. It's been the biggest insight so far. Mate, it comes down to one thing: structure. The goals that I haven't hit by this point are because I did not put the schedule and the structure in to even allow me to try and hit them. The ones that I have hit, and I've hit more goals this quarter than I probably have for the last couple of years, like
Yes,
in
boy.
a really good, exciting way. But still, we're playing the long game. Like, I'm not going to see immediate rewards now, which is why reviewing is so important, because if I didn't review, I wouldn't even realize I'd hit those goals. Structure, without a fucking doubt. If you want to make improvements in any area of your life, whether that's through exercise, nutrition, whatever it is, without the structure, you're just fighting a losing uphill battle that's making it 20 times harder than it ever needs to be. So get it scheduled in. Look at where you're spending your time. What can you eliminate out of your life that's zapping either your time or your energy, so you can put these new things in place? Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. And then you're going to keep doing the same thing. Like, later means never, right?
If not now, when? If not now, when?
If
Mate,
not now, when?
Perfect. Where can people come find you if they want to come find more about you and the gym that you're working in?
Come find me. Come find me on Performance House LDN, which is how the kids and the trendy people say London now. On Instagram, or Fat Loss Fast Lane, as always, where I'll be a little bit more less PC, and not even less PC. I'll just say stupid shit to make you laugh,
And
whilst in the realms
Trump
of trying to help you. With a Trump t-shirt on, which upset a few people, but that was the point. It was meant to. So
there you go. Love it, mate. Honestly, mate, another superb chat with you on the show. If you have enjoyed today's episode with me and Rob, please drop a 5-star review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you are watching on YouTube, hello there. Below here somewhere, like, subscribe. It just goes a long, long way to helping the show out. It doesn't cost you anything neither. So I'm not asking for your money. It just really helps boost the profile of the YouTube channel. As well as that, if you like all of the things that we've been talking about today, and you certainly like the idea of journaling to help you get more towards your goals, help with productivity, and help you feel a bit better as well, the free journal that I've created for 14 days is available in the description of this podcast episode and YouTube video. So if you want that, go get yourself a copy. I'll speak to you here with a new episode every Friday. Take care.